have a couple of days, get her in the ground, and let's try and get this country back to normal.
Every decision made, whether it impacts this country or the former colonies and territories, is done in her name. She benefited from the power, the wealth that came from those decisions. She would have been well aware of them. So for me, when people go, oh, but she was powerless. Oh, I'm sorry. How could she have been so powerless that she is powerful as head of state?
There are care workers that have worked harder than she will ever drink. She probably never put toothpaste on her toothbrush, right?
I mean, that's it's just simply not true, because we know that the Queen in her private life actually lived a very normal existence. And she's known for having threadbare carpets and things like that. She actually lived a very humble life behind the scenes.
Were you there?
So,
did you see it?
Well, I mean,
tell me, Emma.
When you say people died as a result of her actions, how?
Like when people go and serve in the army, they don't serve for our Prime Minister, they serve for the Queen.
Yes.
But they also serve because it's a job and you get really good benefits.
It's called the Majesty's Service.
Yeah. That's a career choice. Joining the army.
It's a career choice, yeah, but that's what they are proud to do that.
That's not about...
No. I know people who are in the army who have gone because they love the Queen. I have arguments with my friends who love the Queen or have been in the army. So you can't just blanket say, like, you don't know these people.
I genuinely don't think that many people have joined the army because they love the Queen. I think it is about the fact that it's a career option. They try and attract young people. They try and attract people...
No, they do attract young people, and one of the anchors is the Queen's army, all the Queen's men, right?
If you use that argument, then you're totally ignoring the whole patriotism thing, because that patriotism is to the Queen and country. And to add to your example of, well, what did she do? Every decision made, whether it impacts this country or the former colonies and territories, is done in her name. She benefited from the power, the wealth that came from those decisions. She would have been well aware of them. So for me, when people go, oh, but she was powerless. Oh, I'm sorry. How could she have been so powerless that she is powerful as head of state? She's powerful enough to lobby certain kinds of benefits for herself and her family, but powerless when it comes to people like you and I.
And she signs off every policy. Every policy she signs off. The state of the country right now, who signed off?
Royal extension. She's a constitutional monarch, so we'd have a constitutional crisis if she...
And she signs it off.
We've got a crisis right now.
But she doesn't have an option. If she didn't sign it, because, for instance, fox hunting is the one that I realise probably we're not going to be fox hunting fans, but she loved fox hunting and lots of rural agricultural people believe in it. She absolutely vehemently disagreed with fox hunting and she still signed it into law.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think because...
hold up a second, if I may. The fact that you are aware that she was vocally and visibly against banning fox hunting, but people like us are not aware that she's been vocally visible against inequalities. Oh my God, that just says volumes. She never opened her mouth to speak out against stark inequalities, whether it's economic, racial, social, jackal, but she could speak up about foxes.
She didn't speak about fox hunting. It's like a known gossip thing.
But if it's a known gossip thing, why isn't it the same?
Anti-Brexit.
As The Guardian actually covered that her lawyers, I think, lobbied for changes to the law so that she could actually hide her wealth.
Yes.
So there is the
That's a fairly complicated... It's a fairly complicated thing, that, because the way that it exists is that... I don't know why I'm defending this, because I don't think she's really rich, but she doesn't get any income from the lands that she owns, and if she did, she would make the most extraordinary amount of money. Like, they own all the beaches. In exchange for not taking any income on all of the lands, she doesn't pay any taxes, and that's fairly complicated legislation, but that's the reason that exists. She would be rich. She would have been richer if she forewent all of that and paid tax normally, but made income from her
You realise
lands.
that is no justification for her being able to exercise the power to seek a benefit for herself. And let's not forget that she had exemption from race discrimination laws, sex discrimination laws, which means that she and her household could have gotten away with lots of crap. It means that if somebody had a real issue, racial discrimination, for instance, and they wanted to bring it up against the house, against the Queen, they would have to go through somebody like Priti Dipotdem Patel, who as Home Secretary was the person who would have the final say, something similar to that, which is nonsense, which means the Queen and her household could not be held to account. They were not being held to the same standards as the rest of us.
They didn't employ. They only employed white people until what the mid said. There was literal. And that is very hard to defend.
Now it looks like he's going to be exempt from paying inheritance tax.
40%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The thing that we shouldn't forget is that she's a sort of constant. She's been in the background for our whole lives, and for some people, myself included, it feels like everything is quite scary right now, and a really constant, reliable figure no longer exists. So even more stuff is changing.
Yeah, but that's like, you're talking about indoctrination, right?
Yeah.
The Queen's everywhere, her head's everywhere, the ER is on the postbox. Everywhere you look, you've seen the Queen.
When I have this conversation with royalists, I always struggle. Like, when people say she worked so hard, like as far as I can tell, right, she attended events, she shook people's hands, she smiled, she read out pre-written speeches, and she lived a life of insane wealth and privilege as a result of that. And I don't think, maybe I'm speaking for people around this table, but I wouldn't turn down that job. I would be working till my dying breath. And I would do, like you said.
I'd be working my arse off. I'd be doing all sorts of stuff. I'd be mad. Like you would.
What would you offer?
I would like. I said I'd do a backflip. I'd do a backflip every week. I can't do a backflip for nothing. But if somebody says, "Oh, you're the king now,"
there are nurses, for example. There are care workers that have worked harder than she will ever. She probably never put toothpaste on her toothbrush.
That's
right.
I mean, it's just simply not true, because we know that the Queen in her private life actually lived a very normal existence, and she's known for having threadbare carpets and things like that. She actually lived a very humble life behind the scenes.
Were you there?
So,
did you see it?
Well, I mean, this
tell
is
me, Emma.
We just saw a video of Prince Charles shoeing, getting somebody to shoe away because they what you can't use his hands. Where did he get that from?
Apparently, Prince Charles has somebody who dresses him. I don't know. The point is, whatever way or manner in which she lives her personal life is actually not the issue here. That is not the issue. But I raised the point earlier. Not today, but I think in a tweet yesterday, and it got me loads of, that woman. And I said, hold up a second. We bury our own families. Why can't her estate bury her, pay for a funeral when she's personally worth, as far as I'm aware, $500 million, dollars, and the royal family have assets worth billions? Why, especially, and I get people go, well, Charlotte, it's because she's a queen. Okay, I understand that. But we're living in very, very difficult times. I don't mind if we have to pay maybe a fraction, and that fraction, I mean like a smidgen.
Or even a choice, even being given the choice.
Exactly. But
I think giving the choice would cost more, like having like a referendum on it would cost more.
Yeah, but I think ultimately we're going to have to make a choice at some point whether we want a monarchy or not.
Well, again, that's the difference, right? Emma and I do, and you guys don't.
I think fundamentally what this boils down to is whether or not and to what degree you have respect for the institution of monarchy. And for me, I think it is worth the money. I think she is worth the money. I think that whether you think that she's worked harder than a nurse or not, I think that from the day that she became queen, she made a pledge to this country to serve, whether her life be long or short. She has served until quite literally before she died. She was still serving this country in many ways, even in death.
I think we're debating the serving.
So the point that I want to make is, and actually, you say she just went to these events and so on, but actually, constantly touring around and doing that sort of thing, particularly in old age, is extremely grueling. Most people are retired by the time that they're
in a luxury car,
80s.
luxury plane, and people hold your hand as you do whatever.
And
you
also,
need to
this
do.
doesn't mean that they deserve to get all of our money and for us to pay for this funeral.
I think that the institution, I personally, as a royalist, I respect the institution of monarchy. I think it is worth the money. And I think the difference between my view and your view, when it boils down to it, is that, my view is she is the monarch. This is how it should be. And if we want to show respect, it's not just about her as an individual, it's about respect for the crown and respect for the constitutional monarchy that is the idea of it is that it protects our freedoms, and so.
What freedoms? Oh, hold on.
I know we can debate this, but I know we can debate this, but I want to make my point, which is that often when we talk about the monarch or we talk about people in positions of privilege, we say, well, they didn't deserve the thing that they have, but actually, I think. The Queen represents something from a previous time that I think we've forgotten about that we should value, and that is the idea that in life I don't believe in the idea that man is born free and everywhere he's in chains. Individuals are born into certain circumstances, and wherever you are, you step up to the plate and you perform the duties that are on you.
Emma,
and the Queen did
Emma,
that
let me
beautifully.
help you out here.
Yeah,
let me help you out
Please
here,
don't
Emma.
patronise me,
No, I'm
because-
not even patronizing. But let me help out here, because I'm listening to you and thinking, you're right. This, I think, ultimately boils down to respect for Queen, respect for the institution as monarchy. And I think the first thing I'll say to you is this is 2022, in which us living as though we still live in the 16th or 15th century with regressive mindsets and servitude is unacceptable. So when we talk about respect, I have to ask, what the heck has the monarchy done for us? So in 2022, my question must be, please prove to me and show me how the monarchy is of benefit to the people of this country, aside from, as people say, oh, ceremonial. That adds zero value. But let me also add this, because Emma was able to comprehensively set out her point, which I listened to, you know I did. And my point here is, the monarchy symbolizes entrenched inequalities in this country. So when you say that the Queen and the monarchy have taught us values, they didn't live by the values you think that they taught us. They didn't just, jack off. Millions of people, millions of hardworking, working class people have worked harder than the Queen, longer than the Queen. Nobody gives a rat's ass about them. Some of them are even buried in a pauper's grave. And you want to talk to me about the Queen? By all means, look, mourn the Queen. Be respectful about her passing. But what gets my blood boiling is when we use all these exaggerated words about her and her service. I mean, I'm sorry, like you, I will take that job, and I probably will cause a lot of trouble doing that job because I don't know how to be quiet.
Constitutional crisis if you
But if you had
Exactly.
if you had the job, you would have to. Like, I do sometimes wonder why I feel defensive of the Queen, and I need to unpack that in therapy. But I do instinctively feel defensive of her, and I think the problem is you cannot have anything less than the ridiculous system we currently have. It's got to have all the stupid hats and the music and the trumpets and the horses and the carriages. Otherwise, it's literally worth nothing. If it's not silly and over the top and based on something that happened on a Tuesday in 1747, then it doesn't work.
But is that not something we need to be querying now? A YouGov poll last year showed that support for the monarchy is waning. It was at, I think, 61%. It's a very outdated concept. And this idea, this divine right to rule, the divine right of kings.
I think very few people. Do you believe in the divine right of kings?
How would you define
As in,
it?
like, God choosing
I believe
the
that
person
I
who's
believe that
born to-
in the coronation ceremony, in the anointing, then in that respect, yes, the Queen was anointed as also the head of the Church of England, and in that respect,
Doesn't religion tell everybody to be equal, but obviously not equal compared to the royals because they don't have to pay tax and they rule over all of us,
If you
right?
believe in the divine right of kings, which some people do and some people don't, then you wouldn't believe that the king was equal. He is different, and
Well, that's wrong either way you look at it.
well, it's a religious view.
It's a wrong
the
view.
divine-
If you believe that you're better than somebody, then that's wrong.
Some religious, it's what some people religiously believe.
And that is still wrong.
Inclined to try to respect other people's religious beliefs, even if
Yeah, but equality is it's the basics. It's the very basics.
There are lots of things in other people's religions that I don't think are right, but I can't say that they're wrong because it's somebody
But
else.
we can say inequality is wrong.
But there is for instance, in some religions it's believed that women have one role and men have another.
But that is
I
also
don't
wrong, 'cause that's
personally
inequality.
agree with it, but people are allowed to believe it and feel it. That's their choice.
And people can believe whatever they want. Doesn't make it right. Inequality is wrong.
So if I can just wade in here, to your point, and I'm a Christian, and I see how faith plays a role. And I don't do religion, I do relationship with God. Now, the reason I feel that faith plays a role, whether, with the monarchy or with anybody else we're going to place in a position of power, is because there is a responsibility placed on you to serve. And that is what Jesus Christ taught us, which is, I am here to serve. And I expect all those who follow me to do the same. That's not what the monarchy does. That's not what the prime minister or president, that's not what they do, because they seem to forget that when it comes to power. And the problem with our monarchy today is that they have amassed and acquired political, economical power, and it is reserved for the few. So even when you get to the point, like you said about Prince Charles not paying 40%, because apparently the government thinks it's not appropriate, it's inappropriate. Are you kidding me? Okay, fine. If he doesn't pay the 40% inheritance tax, Can he pay to bury his mother? Because he has enough money from that estate to do so. So this is where the problem is. And this is what I'm saying. In 2022, if King Charles III cannot think, hold up a second, I am not a product of the 16th, 17th, 18th, or 20th century. Actually, I'm a product of the 21st century. I need to think differently and I need to do differently because people expect different from me.
I think if you
can't do that, then that's a problem.
But I think if you do it differently, then actually people lose even more interest. I think if you're going to have it, I do think it is archaic, it is odd, it's an anachronism. It fundamentally is anachronistic, but I think that's what people like about it. And if you try and modernise, you destroy what last vestige people have of belief in it.
It's also the idea of Chesterton's fence, right? That there are I believe in I believe in respecting tradition, and I think that one of you say, it's 2022. I actually don't think that saying it's 2022 in any context is a good enough argument for anything.
Inequality is a tradition.
But can if you just let me finish my point quickly, because I think that actually that, as I say, this idea of Chesterton's fence, I think that the accumulated traditions of generations, you mentioned the divine right of kings. The divine right of kings is often associated with the idea of absolute monarchy. But actually, our constitutional and this monarchy, from 1688, when we had the Glorious Revolution, from that point on, we have a very particular constitution that's based on precedent, where the monarchy is limited and it's all in this sort of ecosystem of balance. And we have a set of complex traditions around that I think is the inheritance of this country and that we should preserve it, because I value the traditions, hang on just a second, not only of this country, but also of other places as well. I just value tradition full stop.
Last comment from Dr. Shola and Danny, and then we have to move on to the
I just want to finish my point. So I mentioned Chesterton's fence. So that's the idea that basically if you don't really fully understand why the fence is there, don't move it until you do. And I think that the monarchy is extremely important, that the traditions are very important. And actually, you mentioned the working class, but the monarchy is exceptionally popular amongst the working class. I'm from a working class.
Yes, deferential in this country.
Go first.
And I think that's a good thing.
So you talked about a fence, and you say don't move it unless you know what it is. We know what the monarchy is. It's because we know what the monarchy is, and it serves zero purpose in today's world that people are questioning its purpose. And then you also mentioned about tradition. You talked about, well, if we have this tradition and it gives us balance. No, if the intention was to give balance, the application is imbalance. So if the intention was, well, the king is here or the queen is here, and then you've got the House of Commons, House of Lords, it's meant to be some kind of balance, so there's not one single authoritarian. That's not how it works, because whatever has been set up, the system is abused every single time. It's abused with class discrimination, race discrimination, gender discrimination, time and time again. That is the problem. The monarchy we have today, I would say it again, symbolizes entrenched inequalities, talks like they are not part of us. And let me tell you something, I accept what you say, that amongst the working class, they seem to be popular amongst some of them. That's because somebody has sold them a lie. This genius has sold them, let me finish. Sold them this lie that everything that's happening, the system, all of it, it's in your best interest. I mean, how gullible and incredibly obtuse can people be?
I think, at the end of the day, the Queen's just died. It's costing us billions of pounds. We're losing billions of pounds. And then Charles has got another, 30 years in him? And then we've got to do it all again. So in between now and then, things will change. I mean, whether you like it or not, things will change because people aren't going to see this fanfare and be like, oh, let's do it again. It's not going to happen.
I think the monarchy's been our best protection historically against...
I think the monarchy goes
so I hope you're wrong.
To be honest.
Against
I think that race is not
protection against what?
Authoritarianism, but that's a whole other...
But they are...
No, the monarchy's dog shit. It's bullshit. The monarchy's bullshit. Fuck them. I don't care about it.
Everything they've done is for that. How is that not authoritarianism?
I think they genuinely believe, whether we do or not, they genuinely believe. I don't think they're there because they like being malicious or because they like being mean. They truly believe that they are living a life of service. You may not do, and I can see all the arguments why you would think they don't. I really do. But they believe that what they do is important and that it helps keep a character of the country.
We need to
then they are mentally ill. If that's what they believe, then they are mentally ill. If they can't see what's going on here, then they're mentally ill.
Their life of service.
Let's move on. We could talk all day long on this. I have much to say still.
Just before you go, that was a clip from a longer programme, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation, but if you want more, you can watch the full show by going to byline.tv/join and becoming a member.
If you do, not only will you be able to watch full episodes of The Table, as well as hours of extended content, you'll also get to talk to the producers of Byline TV and have direct input into shows like The Table in our producers podcast. So become a member today and be a part of building a better media.